I'd love to welcome you to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom podcast, a place for ambitious individuals to capture proud moments on who they've become. It's a discussion that finds insights, the highs and the lows on where they have been at stages in their life. A safe space to share and openly talk about their journey. So if you're on a journey yourself and you're wanting to stretch, go further and farther than you've ever thought was possible, mastering your life is something that will connect you with your identity. I'm excited to be welcoming some very interesting guests to add value to your journey. For more information and to stay in the loop on what Master Your Life is all about and gain more value, head over to www.master-your-life.co.uk. Subscribe to my newsletter and stay in the loop. Let's get to it. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Boardroom podcast. And I have a really exciting guest. And you know what? She has recently been on the stage at our conference, and I've managed to cultivate some time to get her on here and share her story. Now, what's really insightful here is her name, her business concept is the Morning Game Changer. She is trying to create a new way of achieving a work-life balance, developing positive habits. I'm not going to give it all away because I could really talk for hours about this. I'm going to let her, Kat Thorn, talk about what she does. So welcome to the podcast, Kat.
Thank you, Luke. It's so good to be here. I've done a few guest podcasts and actually just quietly launching my own in the background. So it's just so lovely to to come on to things like this with like-minded people like you. We met a few months ago and just share and hope that one person takes one thing away from this. I think if you go in with that goal, it's a good place to start.
Honestly, I really agree with that. And this is something that I want to build by having people like yourself on this podcast, is it be where, it could be one thing that is the game changer, that changes someone's life in a positive way, because this is what these kind of platforms are really good for. So I think the best way to start this is let people know a little bit about, well, we'll go what you're currently doing right now, and then we'll start kind of going back in time.
Yeah, good idea. So I've been running the Morning Game Changer for almost 2 years now. So in March 2024, it will be 2 years. So next month, we're going to be celebrating the 2-year anniversary. And wow, what a whirlwind it's been. I didn't imagine, and I think this is part of the problem that I see in the world that I'm trying to help people solve, is that I never imagined being at this stage in my life. And I always had a plan for myself. And I think sometimes that following a really structured plan when you're growing up can be quite dangerous and quite toxic. And I think as a society, we've still got a long way to come in accepting and recognizing that not everybody has to do things in a certain way. And I don't know about you. I know you've got your own family now. You've recently had a beautiful little baby girl, and obviously you're currently in a sort of maybe more following a more traditional path, one that I sort of had planned for my life as well. But actually, when I meet people sometimes, I just still find it incredible. People will grab my ring finger and sort of say, "Aren't you married?" or or "How many children have you got?" And I think it's just interesting. And I think I've realized that I'm building an extraordinary life, and it doesn't look like I had always dreamed it would look as a sort of little girl. And that is literally at the heart of what I'm trying to do in my work in the Morning Game Changer, is show people that life doesn't have to be this hamster wheel of autopilot of same SHIT different day.
You can swear, by the way.
Okay, I wasn't sure. So I'll just be
It's
careful.
no, but I really love that, and I can relate to it being a bit of conditioning from society, it feeling like you have to follow a certain trend. That's mental, though, that people are having a look at your hand, looking at you,
I
the
know.
ring finger, and going, who's the lucky one, or when's this going to be? And again, it does come around pressure. I mean, just talking about what you mentioned with, Remy coming into our world, is that, yeah, there was a little bit of pressure from my side as well. It being, do I want to be an older dad? Abby was like, I don't want to be an older mum. And, you had spoken at our conference about, wanting to have, and you can still have children. I think there's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of pressure on us to follow this path. But
Yeah.
I want to go back then in time, because I know, and I want the audience to hear about this, is you had that path, didn't you? You had that point in your life where you thought, I'm set up, I've got what I've truly wanted. But then you soon realized that it really wasn't what you wanted. It didn't seem to be out what it meant to be, or what people would view it as. So externally, I guess people would be like, Kat's made it, amazing life, you've got everything. But then internally, you wasn't feeling that it had that meaning, that purpose. So let's go back to, yeah, that time where you started building, I guess, becoming that CEO.
So I think it starts when you're really young, and I talk about this in my, when I'm on speaking on stage, that from a really young age. So I grew up with my father. My mum died when I was 4 years old, and so I had a younger brother and an older sister. And growing up, I had a pretty normal, standard, average, whatever you want to call it, childhood. My dad was really hardworking. He was a really amazing father, how he raised us. But I think every influence around me was very traditional. So it was like, and as I grew up in a sort of small village, so as I was getting older, people were starting to get into kind of serious relationships at like 17, 18, and buying houses and getting married. Like, one of my best friends got married at 21, and it's sort of almost going through this sort of wedding and thinking, to me, I felt like I was destined for different things. And a lot of my friends stayed in the village, and I went to university, and I was the first person to go to university, and it was a big deal. And I had to fund it. And I remember, I'll never forget, like, sharing a house with some friends, and we got a bill through the door, and it was I think it was a phone bill, because we all used to like to chat, and it was a really high phone bill. And I remember hearing the other girls in my house calling their mums or their parents and going, can you send me 100 quid for the phone bill? And I was thinking, I need to do 2 more shifts at the bowling alley to pay for that. And I don't kind of feel bad about that. I mean, it was what it was. I wouldn't have been able to go to uni if I didn't work. But I think that whole time I was growing up, from a really, really young age, I had this, like, almost like this unconscious, invisible checklist in my head. And, my dad giving me this really, really super strong belief that just working hard is the answer to everything. Just work, work, work. And then you'll have the nice house, you'll have the husband, you'll have the children, you'll have, the holidays. And so I took that so literally. And it wasn't like he was the only person who was telling me this. It was like reinforced by everybody around me. And so I remember meeting the person who I got married to in, when I was studying. And I remember meeting him and literally going through this checklist in my head. Like, is he this? Does he have this? Does he have this? Tick, 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 tick. He's the one. And I pursued him. And, he, luckily, he sort of was interested, and we fell in love, and we had a very loving relationship for 7 years. And he was the person who I was involved with when my whole life exploded in 2016. So, as I share in my talks, in 2016, I had the biggest wake up call of my life. And looking back now, it's like so clear to see what was happening. But at the time, and I think this is a challenge that so many people face, is that we are just constantly running. And it's even worse now, where we live in this 24/7 digitally connected world. We don't give ourselves any space to actually connect with ourselves and feel how we're feeling. And so I was planning this wedding in this beautiful part of Greece, and I was climbing the ladder in my corporate job, and like absolutely smashing my career. I was loving it. And I was kind of getting more responsibility, traveling more. And we just bought a house, and, everything looked very shiny on the outside. And the bit that I missed, and the bit that I focus on now in the Morning Game Changer, is that you can run and run and run, and you can be successful, and you can work hard, and you can do all of these things and achieve such phenomenal things in this world. But your body and your brain will not allow you to do it without you looking after it. And I kind of hate that expression sometimes, like looking after yourself, because I think people automatically think of bubble baths and candles and like a green juice or a yoga class. And for me, it's like, it's not that. It's literally putting your mental and your physical energy first before you rush into the day every day. And I always kind of, talk to people about, have you ever looked at your phone when you've just opened your eyes and you're kind of squinting when you're looking at it? And we've all done it. And anyone who says they haven't, is either at an age where they don't have a mobile phone, or, who knows, they've got extremely good habits. But I think the majority of us can relate to that kind of one eye squinting situation. And for me, when I look back to kind of losing everything in my life and thinking that I had, and just pushing down the feelings of, maybe I'm not on the right path, maybe this isn't right for me, maybe this is actually like something I've fabricated in my mind, because this is what I should be doing. And now at 41, I'm single, I don't have children, I'm building this business, I've got a 3-bedroom house, which I live in alone with my dog. Like, I don't fit any normal stereotype societal rules, I guess, for the way I'm living my life. And I think, I feel like sometimes maybe I was put on this earth to challenge the way that the majority of people live life, and to actually go about living it differently, and then helping others to live differently. And I think in 2016, when I lost everything and nearly lost my life as well, it made me realize that I need to break free of this conditioning, which comes from a lot of different places, from family, friends, society, and actually go, do you know what? When you actually look after yourself, when you actually look after your body and your brain, you can reach a whole different level of performance and experience of life. But we are just so conditioned from a really young age. Like, first thing you wake up and think about when you're a kid is school. And the first thing you wake up and think about when you're an adult is work. So we end up giving the best of ourselves to work. And again, like, I am like a functioning workaholic. Like, I've had to really work hard on that side of myself. But so it's not that work isn't important, or it's not that it's not about working hard or prioritizing your work, your business, your job, whatever you do. But it just cannot be at the detriment of your body and your brain. And that is fundamentally what I believe.
Wow. that was like so driven, so much energy and passion behind that. And that's a belief just from you being on a journey of reinventing yourself. And, these things there, when I was listening, and I'm sure the guys listening to this will agree, there were parts of your life where, again, you had everything was working for you. You had a great relationship, you had a great career path, you probably made your dad proud that you was going up this corporate ladder, but in reality, then that wake-up call hit and things had to change. And this is where, again, I think, like what you said, the society, is we're not challenging our thinking. We're not going against the grain. We're conditioning ourselves to think, well, this is the way it is, right? This is my path now. This is me set for 40, 50 years of my life. And in reality, as we both know, who's made that belief? Who's told us that that's how we have to, lead our lives? Like, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and this was really, really interesting. And I know you'll go, yeah, because this is kind of where I'd like to say I'm kind of at, and I know you're obviously at, is be weird, don't be wide. Be weird, don't be wide. So what he was insinuating was, have your unique ability, be yourself, be weird. People think you're weird where you're at in this stage of your life, but you absolutely love where you are. You're not just content, you're actually like, this is me consistently on a momentum train. I'm not on that hamster wheel. But people go wide and follow the society, follow the crowd. Now, there's a lot that I want to kind of delve through and ask you, but just with the generation thing, because obviously, you say you're 41. I've just turned 30, so I guess I don't know whether you categorize in the Generation Z or something that we're in at the moment. But would you say that the generation as you was growing up, and I felt a bit of this as well from my parents and from my parents, is that hard work was the way in life. It had to be work hard. And then, like what you said, it's you achieve everything kind of comes your way. So I hear a lot of things coming from like the older generation now going, oh, these young ones, they don't know what hard work is.
Yeah, I think so. But I also think that the younger professionals that are coming into careers now, like those people in their 20s and 30s, are facing different kind of challenges. So yes, I think they're a lot more aware of their own mental health, and obviously the world has completely changed since COVID with hybrid and remote working. So in that respect, I don't think they're carrying maybe the same beliefs that some of us were traditionally raised with. However, what is interesting, I think, is that they don't have we have more mental health. We are in the middle of a mental health pandemic. We have more challenges with it than we've ever had before. So whilst, when I was growing up, I didn't have a mobile phone till I was 17 years old. And even then it was only able to do very basic things and cost 10p every time you need to send a text message. So, obviously things have evolved a lot since then. But I think younger people, and in fact I think this isn't just about younger people, because I was talking to a men's mental health group the other night and there was a 60-year-old guy there as well. So I think we're all susceptible to facing challenges in our life. Like, it's a flipping roller coaster, and you can be going along quite happily and then bang, get made redundant. Bang, your best friend gets killed in a car accident. Bang, your mum's got cancer. Like, it's brutal. And I think when the big stuff happens, like, it really knocks people over. And for me, it doesn't really matter about generation. It's not about race. It's not about gender. It's not about what job you do. It's about the fact that most of us are running on empty because we are not topping up our energy bank accounts. We are not topping up our bodies and our minds. And even I meet people sometimes, like obviously I spoke at your event, muscle coach community, right? The majority of people at your event are into fitness and into healthy ways of living. But yet what we see, even when I spoke at the International Fitness Summit with, Stephen Bartlett and some other great speakers, you still see people who are really fit, but who have really extreme and toxic habits that are affecting them to function in a sort of happy and healthy and high performing way on a day-to-day basis. So I do think there's a different generation and a different kind of group of people coming through, but they still have challenges, and they're actually not that dissimilar to others.
Mine was whizzing then. I was thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, this is really good stuff though, what you've just shared there about the challenges. Like, yeah, inevitably we're all going to face challenge, and whether we face them, avoid them, work around them, build something off the back of it, I think, yeah, it's something that because everything's accessible these days. I mean, again, we talk about mental health, right? It's becoming more okay, like just from a male point of view, it's
Yeah.
becoming more okay to share and cry. And I mean, I, like you saw me at the conference, I got emotional,
Yeah.
and I'm not scared. I didn't feel embarrassed. I wasn't like, oh, what are people going to think of me? I was like, whew, just take a deep breath. And but years ago, because it wasn't as accessible, and there wasn't, I mean, bearing in mind mental health has always been a thing. It's just that now I feel that, navigating these challenges, and because there's so much distraction out there, I just genuinely believe a lot of people are, and I don't know what your thoughts on this, and I guess I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but what do you feel is holding most people back from achieving the life that they truly want?
It's their thoughts. It's like, and it's their habits. Because the thing is, and I talk about this quite a lot. So I often ask this question to the audience, and I say, what was your first thought you had this morning? And often say, can you make it clean? And then that usually gets a giggle or two. But generally speaking, apart from the odd person, I've been doing this nearly 2 years now, people will say, I'm tired, I can't be bothered to wake up, I've got this to do, I don't feel great, oh, I haven't done that yet, oh, I've got to remember to do this. And it's like the brain is almost like hardwired in the morning to kickstart us negatively. So I don't know if I shared this at your event, but it took me. So I was a CEO. That was my previous role before I started the Morning Game Changer. It was like the dream job. I didn't ever think I was going to become a CEO. And to be honest, in the worlds that I was working in, I didn't look like a typical CEO. In fact, sometimes I used to go to meetings with my chair who looked more like a typical CEO, and they would think I was the PA. So I was like proud to be the CEO and to make people's eyebrows raise, because they were not expecting to see. I'm still calling myself young. I still feel 25. They were not expecting to see a young female CEO running this organization. So I think when I realized, after sort of, I think I'd been there about 3 years doing this, I realized this wasn't my calling, something else. I didn't feel like it was really like I had a different purpose. And I started journaling about it, and the seed of the Morning Game Changer started to come up, and I didn't know exactly what it was. I didn't know necessarily it was a business. Definitely didn't know what it was called. And it took me 9 months to overcome the self-doubt and the beliefs that I couldn't run a business. And we talk about if you've read The Chimp Paradox, such a great book, we talk about this inner critic, this voice. Some people call it their witch, whatever you want to call it, but everyone's got that voice that says, oh, but hang on a minute. And it's the brain keeping you safe. So it's there to do its job. But the problem is it holds people back. So the thoughts were things like, well, no one's going to pay you. Like, who are these mystery companies? They don't exist. And even if you found someone to pay you, no, the people who are listening aren't going to care. They're not going to learn anything. So, and then it was like, and then I started to write these thoughts down, and then I started to realize, like, well, what if they're not true? And what's the worst that could happen if they are true? If I quit my very lovely CEO job and I don't make any money, and to be honest, for the first 8 months, I made 500 quid because I was going in completely the wrong direction with my business. What's the worst that can happen? I get another job. And at least I've tried. I don't want to die. And I've read lots of books like Regrets of the Dying, 4,000 Weeks. I read a lot. And these books, like, I don't want to be lying on my deathbed going, God, I really wish I'd started that company, the Morning Game Changer. So nowadays, I think, and I'm getting more and more confident in taking risks like you. Let's say yes to more things. And I feel like the more I step out of my comfort zone, the more I can get hold of those thoughts and go, do you know what? That might be the case, but let's give it a try anyway. The more the more I experience, the more joy I get, the more energy I get, the happier I am, the better I am. It's just, there's only wins for me. And I think, you know, if you see life as a journey rather than, you know, once you get to this point, and that used to be my belief, it's like, once I've got the husband, the kids, the marriage, the house, the dog, like I've made it. And actually, I don't believe that. And I also don't believe that we need other people to fulfill us. I think I want to have, you know, I want to have a happy relationship, and I want to have a teammate and go on a journey with someone, because I think life's way more beautiful if you share it with people. But it's not, but I don't want that person to just be a person. And I think, again, there's lots and lots of people who are sitting in really unhealthy, unhappy relationships because they're too flipping scared to leave.
Again, just it could go off in so many different directions, Kat. That was really great what you've just shared there. And I hope that the guys tuning into this, I've got a pen and piece of paper and are taking notes, because there's not just one thing here. There could be multiple things that you could write down from this, and it be, I'm going to make that tiny commitment or that tiny action step and start moving towards what I want. I mean, it was what my coach had said to me, and this hit me hard, Kat. And it's a little bit like what you said, like On the Deathbed, The Top 5 Regrets of Dying by Bronnie Ware, I think it was, that I read as well. Really, really great book. He said, Luke, what do you want written on your tombstone? I was like, oh, I mean, it's giving me goosebumps now. Like, I was thinking, yeah, I don't want to live my life in regret. I don't want to be that person that has not lived my life true to myself, which is the number one regret for a lot of people. They're living their life for others and to stay safe, to stay secure. I think security is a big thing. You know, like you could have easily stayed in the CEO corporate world for, like what you said, I've made it. I'm doing the 6 figures. I'm part of a massive business. But you decided to go, I'm going to start writing my thoughts down. And then this has led you to where you are today. And I know you said earlier on in the podcast episode about you would never have envisioned, you know, this business being where it's at. 9 months of, or 8 months, should I say, of only earning £500. I want to ask you, what brought you to think, I'm going to start writing my thoughts down? Because I feel a lot of people just, again, like we talk about the outcome, right? They focus too much on that. They don't think about that first step. Just even if it's not going to change anything or bring anything, just that, I'm just going to write my thoughts down. What brought you to start doing that?
Well, prior to that, a couple of years prior to that is when I sort of started changing all my habits. So after sort of my life explosion, and I started to read a lot of stuff. I was reading books like The Miracle Morning, Vex King stuff. I was reading Jay Shetty, loads and loads of books. And I started to realize that I have, you know, I'd always kind of invested in myself, but in terms of training at work. So I remember doing like the Prince 2, if anyone's ever done it, it's probably, I'm sure people share the pain of Prince 2, like 5 days of pure PowerPoint hell. But, you know, so for me, training and learning was only ever linked to my career. And again, I think it's kind of, again, goes back to some of those beliefs, like exercise is about your physical body. Like I don't remember anyone in my whole entire life saying to me, no, exercise is for your brain. It's for your energy. It's to sleep better. It's to be more confident. It's not about losing weight. So I always had this association with exercise about losing weight. So I started to read a lot, and it started to rewire different thoughts in my brain. And I think the more positive habits that I started to put in place, the more I used to exercise, the more I started to run, the more I started to read, I started to realize, I started to connect to myself, and I could actually feel how I was feeling. And I've never done that before, because, and I think I used to get thoughts and I'd push them away with alcohol or work. So for the first time, I'm like 100% clear, and I can feel I'm not happy in this CEO role. It's not the right thing for me. But then I've got people close to me saying, yeah, but look at the money that you're earning. You've bought your own house. Like you've got everything. You've got the perfect life. And I'm like, but I'm not happy. And there's something inside of me, and it got louder and louder and louder and louder. And I was like, I don't know how to figure out what this noise is. And I thought, do you know what? Let me just get a blank piece of paper and I'll write it down. And then it just came. And every day, then I incorporated journaling into part of my morning routine because I had so many thoughts and ideas. And this is what I talk to people about as well. Like, we get thousands of thoughts every day. And one of the reasons why I think people feel so overwhelmed is because they just let the thoughts swim around. So imagine you're not happy in your job, or you're not happy in your body, or you're not happy in your relationship. And we think the same thoughts every day. They go round and round and round. And how energy draining that is. It makes you so drained and tired. So, and then what used to happen is, rather than dreading going into my CEO role, I'd go in going, because I'd already done my morning routine, I'd be pumped about this possibility, this little seed of an idea of doing something completely like life-changing. And then I'd go into my work and I'd be like, do you know what? I'm really grateful I've got this job. I'm glad I'm helping people in this role. I'm just going to do what I need to do. I'm not going to kind of let it kill me. I'm not going to kind of work at evenings and weekends. And I'm going to just start like committing to kind of waking up at 5 a.m. every day and making space, because that was the other thing, right? Being a CEO is no easy task, and it just takes over your life and you can just be constantly working. So I carved out this little bit of time before the day got busy to really like map out what this business, what my life could look. Because it wasn't just about the business, it was about creating a different kind of life. And that's how it started. And honestly, if you'd said to me, Kat, if we'd met in 2016, you said, Kat, I reckon you should journal, I would have told you where to go. Because honestly, I thought journaling, meditation, all of this stuff was the biggest load of BS going. And I was so headstrong and so like business focused that I didn't have time for any of that. And this is what I'm so passionate about now. It's like, your body will tell you, it will force you to make time. And there's that good saying, I can't remember how it goes exactly, but it's like, if you don't make time for yourself, like, illness will force you to make time, or something along those lines. And it's so true. And I think we don't really, because we're running all the time, we don't really know what impacts, scrolling or overworking or binge eating or drinking a bit too much alcohol, whatever it is we're doing, we don't really know what the impact is on us until we stop. And we never stop until you get booked to hear me speak. And then I force everyone to give me their attention.
And throw yellow balls at them.
Yeah, don't give too much away.
Sorry about that. But no, that's so good. And I love hearing as well how you started. It was the fact that you had tapped into your conscious and gone, I've got all these thoughts whizzing around in my head. I'm going to create space for myself. So I know this is just a quick question, but before that you decided to make that commitment, and I think the language as well, I'm going to, is really, really powerful. What time was you waking up? What was your morning? Because we're talking about morning game changer now. What was your morning routine like as a CEO? And then how did you shift it when you decided to start planting the seed to create this business?
So I'd already started kind of playing around with the 5 a.m. club, but the 5 a.m. thing came kind of in the middle of the CEO role. So I basically got headhunted in 2016. And, when everything was just such a mess, I just thought, you know what, let's just give this a whirl. Let's just start this new role and see what happens. So I basically initially had a 12-month agreement with this organization that was in a mess and it needed to be turned around. And so, I started this new role. I'd, brought all my habits over with me. I'd moved cities. I basically started a new life, but still had really unhealthy habits. And some of those habits were, and again, no one had ever sort of shown me another way. This is learned behavior. So I didn't have a wake up time. I just worked out when I needed to start work or when I used to be on a plane or whatever I was doing that day. And I kind of went half an hour backwards. And that was whatever time I set my alarm for. So I used to wake up at different times every single day. And then again, I just used to go to bed whenever I thought I should, like, or when I was tired. I didn't go to bed at a set time. That never occurred to me. So in the beginning of the CEO role, it was a mess, you know, and I'm sometimes like really embarrassed to say this, but I didn't even used to make my bed. I used to get up, do the bare minimum, you know, like obviously get ready, have a shower, brush my teeth, whatever, have a coffee, and start working. And that was it. And then it just used to consume me. And so I remember going into these board meetings with this board and they were like, Kat, what are you doing? How are you going to turn this around? And I kept going into these board meetings thinking, I'm trying everything. I don't know what else I can do. I'm racking my brains. And it was around that time that I started, I met someone new. I started a new relationship, and he started waking up at 5 a.m. for a job. So for these first 3 mornings in a row, I'm being waken up at 5 a.m. and I'm like, this is a nightmare, like an absolute nightmare. Like, who wakes up at 5 a.m.? It's ridiculous. And of course, it was a happy accident, because on the third day, I remember thinking to myself, this is it. This is it. I've got so much more time now. This is the answer to figuring out how to turn this organization around. I've got these 2 hours every day that I didn't have. So I'm not going to be able to go back to sleep. And then it was like, for the first time I ever actually noticed a thought and was able to control it. So I noticed that thought, then kind of almost got this flashback to 2016 when everything fell apart. And I realized, no, if you do that, you're going to be in the same mess. And that was the day that I started reading books. You know, I had a bunch of books that I never used to read. I just used to dust them. So that morning I started reading The Miracle Morning. And it was like the first day, I remember my heart not feeling like it was going to jump out of my chest. Like, and I'd never really noticed the heart, like almost feeling like I was on the verge of a heart attack, because I was so used to it. And I wasn't in tune with myself, because my brain was 100 miles an hour the minute I opened my eyes. And it was like, right, let's go. Phone, deadlines, projects, coffee, go. So I was never, ever present. And so that's how it all started. So it was a happy accident. And then the reading kind of started, a few pages each day. And this is what I tell people. Just focus on one thing, the smallest thing. It could be reading a few pages. It could be doing a 10-minute YouTube video. It could be drinking a glass of water first thing. It could be not having your phone in your bedroom. Like, setting a bedtime. It's like, it's the tiny things. And it's so easy to think, oh, well, that's not going to do anything, so I'm not going to bother. So like, yeah, it was a funny way how it all started, and it just grew from there. And I think the more I really had a strong morning routine, the more my whole self-awareness started to increase. And that's when I started to realize that this dream job wasn't actually for me. And I remember, and this is also a good tip actually, because this is really a really good kind of concept that you can apply to any part of your life. When I told my board that I wanted to leave, like by the time I'd kind of overcome the beliefs, I'd worked out that I wanted to start a business. I mean, I was totally terrified. I'm still kind of clearing some debt that I got into because I kind of went about it the wrong way in the beginning. And again, I think we don't talk about debt because we're ashamed of it. But the reality is, I think it was quite brave what I did. You know, I got into debt. I didn't run away and get a job. I just was like, I know that I can make this work. Kind of had to kind of tighten everything up, completely change the way I was living. But I remember going, you know, I had a coach at the time, and I told her, I'm going to tell them that I'm leaving and I'm really worried about what they're going to say. And she said, Kat, do you know what? Someone has got your CEO job on their vision board, and they might not even know it. So rather than, and this is the thing with change, because of course, as soon as I told the board, they were like, well, you can't leave. You are the organization. You run everything. You know everyone. Like, you are the face. And I said to them, what if someone else is better than me? What if they've got better connections? What if they can raise more money than me? What if they bring in new ideas? What if they completely, upgrade the strategy? And I think it's the same fears we have in relationships, it's the same fears we have in work, is that it's that as soon as there's a change announced, it's like instantly the brain and the body goes, oh my God, fear, fear, fear. And actually, the person who took over my role is flying. And she is the most phenomenal CEO. She is 100% doing a better job than me. And I'm so happy about that, because she's exactly where she's meant to be and I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. And if you're in a relationship with someone that is like, they're okay, but they're not the right person for you, there's someone out there that is the right person for them, and there's someone out there that's the right person for you. But have you got the balls to actually go through that and face that fear?
That's it's just how you put it together is so clear, Kat. Like, seriously, the fact that what you've just said there, just at the end, about a CEO's stepped into your role, they've got it on their vision board, and that you're so happy that they've stepped into it and they're doing really well. Let's be honest. I mean, how many people actually genuinely want to see people do well? It's like they leave a job behind or something, and they like look from the sidelines with eyes peeking over the wall, going, "Oh, I really hope they're suffering. I really hope they're not doing well." You know, and it blows my mind. And this is the toxic habits. And going back to when you probably had that talk at the International Fitness Summit about coaches, and I know firsthand, and I've been in this place as well. About the fitness and the wellness space, and the body and brain being connected, and how it can, by working on yourself, it can literally trajectorily change everything. But then on the flip side, you're looking at people that's in the same space as you, and you're negatively talking about them. You're actually talking about them in what you're putting out to the world negatively, to have a like or create attention for yourself, so you feel like, yeah, people like what I'm doing. And it honestly is bonkers. And that for me is where I feel that where you're at, because you're so aligned and you're so passionate about what you're delivering, and you know it works because it's worked for you. And do you know what? You are your best project.
Yeah, still work in progress.
Yeah, but it's always going to be a work in progress. But you've obviously delivered these talks. I mean, I know, again, from the talk where you delivered it in front of 50 people that are like-minded, that I know, and I can tell you this, that they've gone away and implemented something. Like when you're saying about this podcast today, just one thing, I know somebody will be implementing. I guess they will reach out to you and tell you that they've implemented something and it's changed their life. And I think how you articulated that in a way of the morning where it was a happy accident. I think what is good to share here is that you, even though it was an accident, you had bought yourself back 2 hours of time, and you didn't necessarily see it or realize it. It happened. And then you thought to yourself, well, I'm not going to go back to sleep anyway. So you would then calm down. That fight and flight response, maybe that like, oh my gosh, because you had no structure. You'd go to bed at a different time. You'd be like, I'm tired, I'll just go to bed. You'd wake up in the morning at a different time. You had a bit more like, right, okay, those 3 mornings, it started that way. I'm up at 5 a.m. Oh, I've got 2 hours here before I need to go back into work. And I can breathe. I've got space. So that space, that slowing down in order to speed up, allowed you to create. It allowed you to come away from, actually, this hamster wheel, this rat race, this constantly doing and not being. Well, what do I want to do with this time? Because you're driven anyway, and you're very into personal development, and you're somebody that, again, you're not just a CEO by chance. Like, you've had to work there. You've got to have a certain mindset, is that you wanted to do something with that time that was going to be productive, or something that allowed you to create. And I think it's a very courageous but brave step that you had been able to say to your coach and to go to your board and say, hey, I'm ready to leave this job. I mean, even if we go back to that experience, I don't know whether you can recall the feelings, but can you remember that feeling and that moment when you had made that crucial life-changing decision? Like, what was going on?
Just the overwhelming fear. And I remember that day, the days before it and the days after it, just being on LinkedIn, looking at jobs and not applying, but it's like the brain needs to be reassured. So even though I hadn't even failed at that point, even though I had like a runway of some savings and stuff, I'd kind of put a lot of, because I am a planner, I like to control things. So I'd put a lot of thought into this, and I tried to like give myself a buffer as best I could in case it didn't work, because I was going into the unknown. And I could feel there was so much fear and uncertainty. And I totally understand why people stay in the unhappy situations they find themselves in, because the fear and the uncertainty is so uncomfortable. But of course, it's that age-old thing that's where the growth is. That's where the good stuff is. That really, and I really believe that my mum dying tragically at 4 years old and then having this life explosion, this wake-up call in 2016, has made me so bloody passionate about life. And it makes me sad to see people like holding themselves back through fear and doubt. And so I suppose for me, yes, I'm building a business, but it's more than that to me. It's really not about money. It's about, I just want people to see the light, I guess, to see the opportunity, like the potential that's inside of themselves to experience life in a different way. And I think in my city in Portsmouth, there's lots of people here, and it's all over the world, but there are a lot of people here who have got this mindset, this belief that, you know, you go to work, you come home, you maybe have one holiday a year if you're lucky, you get a takeaway on a Friday night, you kind of smoke, drink, whatever your vice is, do drugs, and that's kind of makes everything a bit more bearable. And I just think, no. Like, no, 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 no. Like, we get one shot of this. Who knows how long you've got? You might have 6 months, 1 year, 10 years, 50 years. No one knows. And why would you choose to have like not even an average life, but a miserable life? And I feel like you can feel it in the air sometimes. And I really believe that all the stuff I talk about is so commonsensical, it's so basic, but yet we don't pay attention to it because we're looking for these silver bullets. You know, if you look in the diet world, you're in this industry, like how many different ways are there to lose weight? How many different pills are there? How many different plans are there? How many different programs? It's so overwhelming. So simplicity, like when I say to people, like, honestly, going to bed and waking up at the same time is one of the best things for your mental health. Get your phone out of your bedroom will completely change your life. People go, yeah, whatever. So that's why I always set people a challenge. That's why I always say to people in every single talk I do, every single program I run, every single team I speak to, I say, I'm going to invite you to commit to making one small change, because I don't want you to believe me. I want you to see it for yourself.
That in itself, just talking about routine, right? Going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. That changed my life when I was running my PT business, because I was getting up really early, like 4:15 in the morning, to be at the gym for 5:15, right? But it's that energy management as well. It's your body has a clock. Think about it when we go into different time zones. When we go overseas, your body's out of sync, your digestion is out of sync, your brain thinks differently because you've got jet lag. You know, maybe people, it takes them 2 weeks to get over it. Well, imagine if you're just in that for 20, 30 years of your life and then you're complaining that you're not where you want to be. Because really, like what you just said, it's a simple change. Because there's so much noise, and like what you said about Portsmouth being a city where people, yes, they have the 5-2. I call it the 5-2 trade-off: 5 days of slavery for 2 days of freedom. But then the freedom is not freedom because you're just exhausted from draining your energy bank all week by being around people that you don't really care about, and you just put on a smiley face to say, I'm okay, I'm great, but you're really not. And it's the same thing here. Yeah, you take away once a week, maybe once a month, you might go and splash out on a night out, a day session. You may spend on some clothes just to probably you won't wear. They'll just be up in your wardrobe collecting dust because maybe a couple of months later they don't fit, just purely because, you know, weight's creeping on without you realizing it. You're hitting a mental low, then you're hitting a wait list on the NHS because you're feeling like you need to put a sick note in for work because you'd rather do that. It's the easy way out. It's a cop out. And then you find yourself just in a very, very low position and being the victim of your life and going, well, you know, this is it. This is how it's supposed to be. And everybody
Yeah.
else is like, you know, everybody else around me is saying that they're suffering from mental health and that everybody else is, you know, putting in sick notes. I've been talking with so and so, but you know, you like, I mean, just go. I just want to talk about this because obviously we're getting towards the end of the episode, is because we haven't spoken about it yet. But you had said that your mum had passed away at 4 years
Mhm.
old, right? And then at 2016, you had a wake up call, an explosion. Are you happy enough to share what that explosion was and what then changed for you from the back of that? Because I don't think people realise that we've only got one shot at life and that we could die
Yeah.
tomorrow. We think we're going to live forever.
So I think it's hard to sort of explain it. I think sometimes it's easier to explain it. Like imagine extreme burnout. So my body stopped. Like I literally remember waking up and lying in bed and I couldn't lift an arm up. And I couldn't get my legs out of, like my body literally, it felt like it had almost stopped working. And I just couldn't work out what was wrong with me. I thought I was stressed about the wedding and I was trying to make sense of it. And people were telling me, oh, you're probably stressed because of the wedding. And it was a great like thing to be talking about. And I went to the doctor and, you know, so I kind of just, I went through with the wedding. Like we actually separated just a few weeks after the wedding. So I think the wedding itself was part of it because it's such a big momentous thing in your life. But I think it was like everything just snowballed. And I went to the doctor because I just couldn't make sense of it. And I remember my boss saying to me, like, are you okay? Like, you really, and I'm like, yeah, of course I'm fine. And I never wanted to share with my boss or anyone at work. No one at work knew what was going on. I was so proud. I was like, I don't think again, like I'd grown up in a world where it was okay to say you're not okay. So I thought therapy was for weak people. In fact, I'm recording a podcast with a guy soon about how, you know, there's still a lot of stigma around therapies for weak people. But I grew up thinking therapy was for weak people. So I never got any help. I didn't talk. I just shoved all of this stuff down and my body reacted. And I went to the doctor and he said, I'm surprised you haven't had a heart attack. Like you are literally a couple of weeks away from giving yourself a heart attack. You have got to change. And I think that was almost seeing like because what's really sad about my mother passing so young is I only have one memory of her and it was the night she died. So I think I almost flashed back to that night, seeing her lying. I didn't realize she'd passed away at the time, but obviously just seeing her body on the floor. And I think it was like, shit, you have got to change. And it was like suddenly all this kind of fog lifted and I was like, I don't want to be in this relationship. Like, this is not the right thing for me. This was the right thing on paper. And he was an absolutely like wonderful person and has somehow sort of forgiven me and is now, you know, in a happy relationship himself. But it was like a checklist. It was like, this is who I should be with because this makes sense. But it wasn't like a heart decision or a gut decision. It was a head decision. And so this is what I talk about now. It's like the body will tell you when it's had enough. And so when people don't sleep well, when they feel tired all the time, it is the body trying to tell you, hey, you're not going about this the best way.
I think, yeah, just that your body is great at providing warning signs. It's whether we choose to ignore it or whether we choose to sit with it, acknowledge it, and then take action. I mean, I can't imagine the feeling when you had been in that doctor's office and you know what it's, even I get anxious going into my local GP and they sat there, and even if they've only got 15 minutes with you because, you know, they've got appointment after appointment, you instantly feel like really tight when you're in there. You know that, is it going to deliver some bad news? And then to say that you're 2 weeks away from having a potential heart attack, that's like life or death right there. I mean, you know, I think just as a takeaway for somebody listening to this, I think also you have to understand that you don't want to feel that, and this is, again, people go into comparison mode going, yeah, well, they had a wake-up call or they had something happen to them, so that helped them change. You don't
need that.
You don't
No,
need that. That's what people
you don't
think.
need to wait for that.
Yeah, like people may have had a car accident or something, and then it was like, right, that was it. That was my time when I changed my life. It really doesn't have to be like that. It literally is. Your time is ticking. Like, we're on this podcast, 54 minutes and 13 seconds has ticked that we will never, ever regain. Ever.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at 34 years old, it was like a very difficult experience to go through. And so I just wake up every day now and I'm like, do you know what? Like, yeah, my life isn't exactly where I want it to be right now, but every single day I wake up and I do the things that I know that I'm committed to now. For me, this is a lifelong journey. This is not something, you know, for me, habits, my positive habits are part of my DNA because this is the kind of person I like being and I want to continue to be. And I know that this is the best version of myself. And so that's what's funny is like, I still don't have the family that I desire and that I've dreamt about and that I see in my future. But I know that I'm on the right path and I can't go wrong now. And even if I have, you know, more kind of, hopefully I won't have another failed relationship, but, you know, even if other things happen in life, you know, I know my dad's getting older, he's going to pass at some point in the future. You know, I know there are difficult times ahead, but I also know that nothing will ever knock me over because I have those foundations. And for me, one small positive habit change is the start of building foundations for life. And I think, why would you want to be a 3, experience life in a 3, when you could experience a 7 some days, a 10 some days, okay, a 1 some days, but way more kind of happier, healthier, sunnier days? Like, I think it's now I've kind of gone on this journey. It's just a mission of mine now to try to help people to see that all of this is possible and that it all is in our control, is within our hands. And this is why I work with companies now, because companies are doing more than ever before to help their people with well-being. They know that when people are happier and healthier, they're going to perform better in all areas of their life. So it's great for business and it's great for them. They know that. The problem is that they don't know how to do that. And that's where I come in, because I'm helping people to raise their self-awareness and take personal responsibility. And I think it's almost impossible for a company to help their employees take personal responsibility, because most people are defensive about their habits, and most people will say, you're my boss, you know, you're not my mother, you don't get to tell me what to do.
That's spot on. It's delegation. And I feel what you're going towards, and obviously I've been following your journey now for over a couple of months, it's amazing to see what you're creating. And I think anybody that, again, has listened to Kat talk, you can really feel that power behind, and energy as well, like the body and the brain. People will see this, but even listen, they know that you take care of yourself. Don't need to ask, what do you do for self-care, Kat? You bam, 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 bam. And I think just what really stood out to me, and this is something I'm very passionate about now, is experience of life. So I think just what would be a great thing for people listening to take away from this is ask themselves the question, and on a scale of 1 to 10, is experiencing life to its full potential, or just experiencing life, not being in the bubble, like doing different things. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you sit? Because there is loads of people out there that are 3, a 2, or 1. You know, or they may just have a 10 out of 10, but for 7 days out of 365 days a year, which that be that holiday that you're talking about, where they go, oh my gosh, you know, how's your Monday? How's your Tuesday? Sat there with their legs with a pina colada or something. And then they straight back into like the trap and the negative wheel of, oh God, I need another holiday after this holiday. kind of thing. But it's choice, isn't it? It's ultimately down to us. There's many ways, again, that you said, focusing on one thing at a time, where people can bring happiness into their life. I mean, just to kind of like conclude this episode, obviously I ask this question all the time, and it is a great question, and I always love to hear people's opinions and views on it. Is, for you, Kat, what would mastering your life mean to you?
I think it's what I just said. I think mastering my life is about getting back control. And I think I loved hearing about your mastering your life concept and your programs and things, because I think so many people are letting life happen to them. And for me, mastering your life is like, no, this is my life. I'm going to take back the reins. I'm going to boss my phone. It's not going to control me. I'm going to decide when I wake up. I'm not going to get woken up by, children, pets, other halves, a horrible alarm clock, whatever it is. I'm not going to give the worst of myself to the people I love the most and the best of myself always just to work. I am going to run this show. And that is, to me, the definition of that. And that is now for me, like, till the day I die, this is how I want to run my life.
Amazing. Love that, Kat. Like, the owner, you're taking ownership. You're the business owner. You're the owner of everything that you do. Obviously, there is things that are out of our control, but I just like how and this has come together really, really well in this episode of what we've spoken about today. And I just personally, obviously, want to thank you for sharing. I mean, there's more. I think people may have to re-listen to this. I know that I will re-listen to this multiple times, because there's things that I know I can create off the back of this as well. But just as we finish off, where can people find you, Kat, all over? Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I post daily on LinkedIn and Instagram. So I'm the Morning Game Changer on Instagram, Kat Thorn on LinkedIn, and my website, katthorn.com or morninggamechanger.com. And I'd love to hear from any organizations that are looking for a keynote speaker with a difference. So I definitely don't class myself as an average motivational speaker. I'm doing things differently. Everything I do is interactive, and everything actually, although I tell my story, and I do think storytelling is such an important part of this, my goal when I'm speaking on stages or working with teams is to help people to raise their self-awareness and get them to take action. And for me, my job isn't done if people are not making positive change. And I think there's the old way of motivational speaking is almost, coming to an end. I think we need different kind of speakers now. We need people that don't just tell their stories, because quite often they're completely unrelatable. We need people that tell stories, but that actually give people the power back.
Amazing. And that's why you helped me as well. Going off on the side about the start by saying yes in terms of life, that was something you've helped me with, because obviously I look up to you as somebody that's an international speaker with a difference. I agree with that completely. Guys, I'm actually plugging Kat in here because she spoke at our conference literally in January, and she blew the room apart with the mindset. They have all taken action off the back of it, even if it's one thing. So I would suggest that you connect with her and even drop Kat a message. She's very friendly. She will help you along the way with your journey if it's one simple habit that will change your life. So Kat, I just personally want to say thank you so much for being on this episode and sharing so many golden insights.
Thank you, Luke. Honestly, I'm so thrilled that we met. I really enjoyed speaking at your event, and I'm sure we're going to work together in the future as well. So really glad to have had this time together.
Oh, I love that. There will 100% be a collaboration on the cards. Thanks again, Kat.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for tuning in on this episode. If you found this useful and it's provided value to you, if you don't mind, go onto my channel, tap follow, and keep in the loop for more podcast episodes like this. And if you want to go one step further, please leave us a positive review. It would mean the world to us, and it would help spread the message to many more people. And also, if you want to go that one step further again, tag us on socials, drop us a message. I will always respond. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.